It could be the smallest thing. Find something to agree on with your customers. Working for Apple, I learned this the hard way. In the mid-'80s, we tried to make Macintosh a spreadsheet, database, and word processing machine. And if you're a long-time Macintosh user, you know that we were 0 for 3 there. However, the market and Apple found something to agree on, which was desktop publishing. Desktop publishing saved Apple. Aldous PageMaker, in particular, the really killer app of Macintosh for the first 10 years, saved Apple. I believe that Aldous PageMaker was a gift from God to Apple. It saved Apple. And I believe in God. One of the reasons why I believe in God is there is no other explanation for Apple's continued survival than the existence of God. So, we found something to agree on, desktop publishing. Now you may be wondering, what in the world does this picture have to do with finding something to agree on? Well, I heard this story. Perhaps it's apocryphal. But you know, as a speaker, you can't let the truth get in the way of a good story. So the story goes that 2 Latin American countries were having a diplomatic crisis. They meet in a neutral third country. Days go by of negotiation. No progress is made. One diplomat says to the other diplomat, you know, we need to come to some kind of agreement by Friday, because on Friday I must return to my home country. Now the diplomat says, well, why do you need to leave? And the other diplomat then says, well, I need to leave because I promised my wife that I would take her to the opera this weekend, so I need to get back. He goes on and further explains that I hate the opera. My wife forces me to take her to the opera, but I promised her I would take her to the opera, so we need to come to some kind of conclusion by Friday. The other diplomat says, oh, you hate the opera too? And your wife forces you to take her to the opera too? And from that little agreement on something, the dislike of opera, they formed a relationship that solved the diplomatic crisis. The lesson here is, whether it's desktop publishing or a dislike of opera, step 1, find something to agree on. Find the bright spot. The second thing is that you need to, as I said yesterday, to build trust and likability, you need to default to yes. Hopefully in the last 24 hours, as you've been meeting new people, you've been defaulting to yes. You've been asking yourself, how can I help the other person? As I said yesterday, defaulting to yes, the upside is much greater than the downside. Default to yes. The third thing is to trust people in advance. I used the example yesterday of Zappos. You know, Zappos trusted women, a policy of paying for shipping both ways. So millions of women have come to trust Zappos, not chicken or egg. The way it worked is Zappos trusted women, women came to trust Zappos. And there's a classic, great example that everybody loves to think about, which is Nordstrom. Truly a retailer that trusts people. Apocryphal story about Nordstrom. Someone returns a tire to Nordstrom, even though Nordstrom clearly does not sell tires. That's trust. Number 4. Number 4 is, I want you to become a baker, not an eater. Let me explain. If you want to enchant people, be a baker. An eater sees the world as a zero-sum game. Limited pie. I have to eat as much of the pie as fast as possible, because if I don't eat the pie, somebody else will eat the pie. Zero-sum game. A baker sees the world very differently. A baker says, not zero-sum game. I can bake more pies. I can bake bigger pies. I can bake cookies and cakes. Everybody can have a dessert. Bakers are more enchanted than eaters. Become a baker, not an eater. Number 5, build an ecosystem. An ecosystem is the totality of your company's offerings. In the software business, it is not simply the digital download. It is not simply the DVD with the installer. It's all these things, like consultants, developers, resellers, user groups, websites and blogs, online special interest groups, conferences. We are part of the IBM Smarter Conference ecosystem. I keep saying Smarter Conference, like senility. Smarter Commerce ecosystem. the totality of smarter commerce is not simply IBM. It is IBM and all of you. That's what makes it so enchanting. That's what makes it so powerful. Think of, for example, Apple with all its iOS developers. Apple could not possibly create the 300,000 apps that are available for a phone. Same thing in the Android world. Google and all the Android developers. So build an ecosystem, the totality of the offering. The sixth thing you can do to enchant people is to tell a story. In technology in particular, many companies introduce a product. They use words like patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting, enterprise quality, scalable. Okay? The problem with that is that every company uses those kinds of words. You need to tell a story, a personal story. Let me give you some examples of great personal stories. Two guys in a garage. They're thinking, why do we have to drive to a university to use a computer? Why do we have to go to work for a large company? Why do we have to work for the government? Computers should be smaller and cheaper and easier to use. So let's build a personal computer. The story of Apple. Or, my girlfriend wants to sell Pez dispensers online. She collects Pez dispensers. She needs a way to sell her Pez dispenser collection online. There is no way to do this. So I started eBay. Incidentally, that's a total bullshit story. But here I'm in our Tomy guy who made that story up. But it is a great story. It is a great story. So, tell a story. Tell a story of why your product exists, why your company exists, why your service exists. It's not about patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting stuff. It is a story. There had to be a better way. Wouldn't it be interesting if? Wouldn't it be neat if? Tell those kinds of stories. The seventh way to enchant people is to sell your dream. Truly to sell your dream. You know, when Steve Jobs introduced iPhones, he did not stand up on a stage like this and say, I have today's iPhone 4. It is $188 worth of parts, manufactured in China under somewhat suspect conditions. That's not how he positioned an iPhone. An iPhone was thin and beautiful, and there's an app for that. It'll make you sexy. It'll make you cool. It will change your life, increase your creativity and productivity. Sell your dream. The eighth way to enchant people is to plant many seeds. You know, with Marketing 1.0, it was a top-down world. You identified the key journalists and reporters, experts in the field. You sucked up to them. You hoped that they liked what you did, and they would tell the great unwashed masses to use your product or service. So, the way marketing used to work is you suck up to the people on high, they disseminate your message to the people on low. Hallelujah, that's how products are made. Lotus 1-2-3 arguably was made that way. It's a different time, great success, suck up to the Wall Street Journal, make the product. Hallelujah. I think the world is very different today. The world is very different because of social media. Twitter, Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, Pinterest. They have changed the world. They've inverted the marketing pyramid. Now, you have to plant many seeds. Because I think that the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and CNET and Wired and USA Today, they don't necessarily make a product successful. They report on products that are already successful. So the question is, how do you become successful first so that they have to write about you? And my solution is you have to plant many seeds. To use the terms of Malcolm Gladwell, you need to make your product or service tick. And how do you do that? Planting many seeds. It is the hypothetical lonely boy 15 who is key to the success of a product or service today. Let us describe lonely boy 15. Lonely boy 15 does not work for the Wall Street Journal. Lonely Boy 15 still lives with his mother. Lonely Boy 15 sleeps on Buzz Lightyear sheets. Lonely Boy 15, however, has 15 friends. And they tell their 15 friends, and their 15 friends. And one day you wake up and you're a Twitter, so to speak. You're a Twitter. The true story of Twitter, 6 or 7 years ago, this company starts. If you were to tell people, I have an idea for a new product, it's going to enable you to send a 140 characters text message out to the world. Any skeptic would say, well, have you ever heard of ICQ? Have you ever heard of text messaging? Why does the world need Twitter? So you can tell people that your cat rolled over? So that the line at Starbucks is long? I don't think so. So what happened was at South by Southwest about 6 years ago, the great unwashed masses used Twitter to figure out where the best panels were and where the best parties were. It was a completely ground-swelling enthusiasm for a product that most experts would not say could succeed. There is no article that you could find that's 6 years old that says, we've seen the future of communications. The future of communications is nanoblogging. Nanoblogging equals Twitter. Mark our words. One day you'll see Twitter become so powerful that it could bring down a government. There is no such article like that at 6 years old. Twitter became successful, so the experts, the journalists, the reporters, the analysts had to write about Twitter. If you buy this theory that marketing 2.0 comes from the bottom, then you have to plant many seeds. I'm not saying you should ignore the reporters and journalists and analysts, but I'm saying that you should also not ignore Lonely Boy 15. The problem with Lonely Boy 15 is he's very hard to find. He doesn't work for the Wall Street Journal. He doesn't have 15 million followers on Twitter. Lonely Boy 15 has amazing implications on your engineering because you need to make products and services that can be deployed very easily so that anybody can try it. And then you plant these seeds and hope that a few take root and blossom and flower and make you successful. Enchantment is about planting many seeds. Number 8. Number 8 is to remove the speed bumps to your service, to your website, to your enchantment. This is a screenshot of when I tried to sign up for a service. This is called CAPTCHA. How many of you have encountered CAPTCHA in your life? Okay, what's the purpose of CAPTCHA? The purpose of CAPTCHA is to reduce the number of customers you have. Right? Right? It's like putting in a field for the company name when you're ordering a ticket. You want to reduce the amount of transactions. Okay, so let's just review this particular CAPTCHA. The first word is probably Holber. Probably. I can guess that. The second word is a little bit more problematic. How many of you know what language that is? Okay, so a handful of you. Roughly the same amount of people who've seen a Justin Bieber concert. That's Hebrew. Now, for those of you who know it's Hebrew, how many of you have a Hebrew keyboard handy? Even fewer than the people who went to a Justin Bieber concert. So, of 2,500 people in this audience, basically none of us could get past this CAPTCHA. I find that truly amazing. This is a speed bump. Why don't you just say, I don't want you to register at my website. Click here if you don't want to register. That would be more effective. I'll show you a company that is a good example of removing a speed bump. This is a company called Sungevity. Sungevity is in the business of installing residential solar panels. What is one of the speed bumps in putting a solar panel on your roof? It is the first appointment. You have to be at home. They have to show up. They have to measure your roof. You know, it takes off time from your work. You have to be there. They have to show up. Lots of things have to happen. That is a speed bump. Imagine if there was a way to remove the speed bump. And Sungevity has figured out a way. All they do is they ask you for your home address. Then they look you up on a satellite photo. From the satellite photo, they know which way is south. Then they mock up the solar panel on your roof. From that mock-up, they can tell you approximately how big the panel will be, how much power it will put out, and how much it will cost. I think this is an excellent example of removing a speed bump using a satellite photo. Number 10. Number 10 is to use a data set to change resistance to your enchantment. Of all audiences, I expect you to appreciate this. This is an example from a website called Gapminder, gapminder.org. Many excellent examples of using data to change a mindset. I think to this day there is a mindset that other than in the Americas and Western Europe, most people in the world live under conditions of short lives, many children. Admittedly, there may be a causative relationship there. Now, the horizontal axis measures the number of children per woman. The vertical axis measures your lifespan. So in 1950, other than Western Europe and the Americas, you'd pretty much say the whole world is living under conditions of lots of kids and short lives. I think to this day, many people still believe that. But now, watch this data set. We're going to go from 1950 to 2008. And you can see that the world is changing. And by 2008, most of the world is now in the upper left corner. In that upper left corner, everybody has a longer life and fewer children. The consistent exception to this, however, is Africa, the navy blue color. So this is an example of using data to prove, to show, to evangelize a change in a mindset. Many of you have lots of data points in your databases. Get those data points and use them to change a mindset. Number 10 way to enchant people. And I'm going to give you a bonus. This is the 11th way. The 11th way is to make your enchantment last by invoking a very powerful feeling called reciprocation. The expert in this is Bob Cialdini. He wrote this book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. This carpet depicts the war between Italy and Ethiopia. Italy invaded Ethiopia in the 1930s. When that happened, the people of Mexico collected money and sent it to the people of Ethiopia. About 85 years later, there was a huge earthquake in Mexico. However, at the time, the people of Ethiopia were in the midst of a very terrible famine. Even though they were in the middle of a famine, the people of Ethiopia collected money and sent money to Mexico because they wanted to reciprocate for the help that happened 85 years before. Similar example. After the Civil War, the people of New York bought the people of Charleston a fire truck. The first one was on a boat that sank, so they actually had to buy them 2 fire trucks. The people of Charleston vowed that someday, should New York ever need help, they would reciprocate. What happens 150 years later? 9/11. What do the people of Charleston do? The people of Charleston collect $500,000 and buy the people of New York a new fire truck. Reciprocation lasted 150 years. That's how powerful reciprocation is. I like to leave audiences with very, very tactical advice. So I'm going to give you a little tactical advice about reciprocation because it is a very powerful emotion. Okay, so let's suppose that you do default to yes. You're a baker, not an eater. You will be my subject, okay? You're my subject. I've defaulted to yes. I've done something for you. I'm thinking baking, not eating, not a zero-sum game. I do something for you. Okay. She thanks me. Now, the question is, what is the optimal response when she thanks me? It is not simply, you're welcome. It is, I know you would do the same for me. I know you would do the same for me. By telling her, I know you will do the same for me, I'm telling her, she's a good person. She has class. I know you will do the same for me. I'm also telling you, I know you will do the same for me. Power tip number 1 on reciprocation. Power tip number 2. When someone owes you, you may feel magnanimous, like this great person. Don't even think about it. Don't even mention it. And you think you're doing the person a favor. You're actually not. If you want to do that person a favor, you give her a way to pay you back. Because right now, I've done something for her. And she knows she owes me. She might ask me to do more things. I am perfectly happy to do more things. I'm a baker, not an eater. I default to yes. I would love to do more things for you. But I am not clairvoyant. And so, what you need to do is you need to enable people to pay you back. This is how you can pay me back. Clears the decks, and now we can have an even more enchanting relationship. So the 2 power tips on reciprocation. The optimal response to thank you is, I know you will do the same for me. And then give people a way to pay you back. Those are the top 10 ways to enchant. Quickly review. As I told you, the 3 pillars of enchantment are likability, trustworthiness, and quality. Likability, trustworthiness, and quality. Those are the 3 things. Remember, the likability of Richard Branson. What did he do? When I told him I have never flown on Virgin, he got down on his knees and he started to polish my shoes with his jacket. That's likability. Trustworthiness. Remember Zappos. Zappos who trust women not to defeat their system of paying shipping both ways. Buy the shoe, if you don't like it, send it back. And quality. Think of quality. The 5 characteristics of quality. Quality means your product or service is deep, lots of features and functionality. It's intelligent. People look at it, they say, this company was thinking. They understood my pain. Ford understood that I need to be able to give my sons the key to a Mustang with 650 horsepower and not worry about them. So they give me the My Key, limited to 55 miles per hour. Great products are complete. The totality of the smarter commerce ecosystem. The totality of this entire room. Great products are also empowering. They make you feel more productive and more creative. They don't fight you. And finally, great products are elegant. Someone cared about the user interface design. And that's the key to enchant. Thank you very much.